Hi, hello, out there in Facebook land. This is Maria, and we are launching our first Lunchtime Live of 2021. So happy New Year. And I am just going to wait a few minutes while we had a small audience. I'd love to get feedback. If you were with us last year in 2020 for Facebook Live, I like to kind of make sure I'm getting, everyone can hear me all right, get some feedback, see the audience here. And I know there's always a delay. So welcome to thanks Mark, welcome back. Yes, it is really good to be back. Welcome back Mark and Donna to Lunchtime Live. And we took the month of December off. I had to do some traveling, and things have changed quite a bit here at the Tijuana Estuary and in Southern California and California in general. So you'll see I'm here. Happy New Year. Welcoming 2021 with Lunchtime Live, our first Lunchtime Live of the year. Hi Ann, hi Donna. And I'm standing out here on this windless but gray noon time, first Tuesday of the year, here at the Tijuana Estuary. So some things I'm doing well. I'm really happy to be back. I had to take a little time off, but I'm very happy to be back. Things have changed. We are the visitor center is still closed. However, parking lots and restrooms are closed due to the stay-at-home order. Our trails have always remained open, and we are not working here at the facility anymore. So I'm working from home and coming in to do this program. So there are some challenges with that, but it's so wonderful to be here. And even in the short bit of time I can be here for Lunchtime Live. And it's so wonderful to see you guys, and I'm really excited to launch the year off with the Tecate Cypress, which we'll get to in just a minute. So here I am. If for those of you hello, all the way from New York City. I was just out very close to there and I'm very happy to be back here where the climate is a little bit more temperate, and you'll see that I'm here out by really close to the trail. Actually, I'm pretty much on a trail, and very close to the visitor center, and actually right next to the nursery. So if you've been here before, you recognize this area. There's the nursery. It's actually to my right. And I'm out here because the species that we're going to start the year off with is the Tecate Cypress. And that one individual that we have here, let's flip this around, is there. So those of you who have been here before, who are familiar with the visitor center and the nursery nearby, may also recognize this species. And like the description of the program, this is not a plant that we have to, Happy New Year, Anne-Marie. This is not a plant that we are driving to Otay Mountain to see, which is where Tecate Cypress is found in San Diego County, in the Otay Mountains, in just across the border in Northwest Baja, as well as some populations in the Santa Ana Mountains of Orange County. So this is a plant native to those areas, and very special, extremely rare and threatened. It is rare and threatened in California and elsewhere. And we're gonna get off the tripod here and take a much closer look, but I wanted you to see this particular Tecate Cypress. Well, it's the only one we have here, but you can see the size of this plant. So this is a perennial tree, growing more mounding and rounded, more bushy-like, getting up to about 35 feet tall or so, and very wide as well. This one here, not quite that large yet, planted here to one, demonstrate native plants in the region, and two, also performing a wonderful cover, blocking of our nursery and that chain link fence, which might not be that attractive. So I'm wondering how many of you have seen a Tecate cypress, either in the wild or maybe in a place like this where you're using it as like a hedge or in a yard, or maybe another type of cypress. So the Tecate cypress, formerly the Cypressus forbesii, in the Cypressaceae family, which is the cypress family, and you may be more familiar with some of the more ornamental, like the Italian cypress. Very, very similar. All right, so someone's seen those, very familiar with the cypress. So we're gonna get up close and take a more detailed look at the plant itself. But while we're just stepping away from it, that's the singing tree, the one with the three amigos. I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen that movie. So you can see right there. Oh, good, Mark's you've seen the ones on Otay Mountain. Excellent. I have 2 years ago when I went for like a fire ecology talk, which we'll touch on in just in a minute. But this is a rare plant found in few locations, typically 1,500 to 5,000 feet in elevation. But as you can see, it's doing fairly well here at the Tijuana Estuary, and okay, Omar, in here at basically sea level, because dry soils, wet to dry soils, and fairly hardy plant, and drought tolerant as well. So let's get a bit closer to the Tecate cypress, formerly Cypressus forbesii, and I will do my best to pronounce the new name, as often scientific names change, Hesperocyparis forbesii. Okay, so called the Tecate cypress, sometimes called the Forbes cypress as its common name. So let's get a little closer look. So I mentioned, and I guess everyone's hearing me all right, I mentioned that this plant this is a perennial tree shrub, but anyone to guess, is it an evergreen or a deciduous? It is an evergreen, and one of the reasons I chose this plant for Lunchtime Live today was to start the year with something that's still very vibrant, that doesn't lose its color throughout the year. Since many of the plants around here have gone dormant after a long summer of drought or dry, low rainfall, many of the plants here shut down, go dormant. But the Tecate cypress is an evergreen, and a wonderful species to show today, in the early winter, before we get our rains and plants start to flourish again. So we can see it's a multi-branched tree, bushy tree, long stems supporting this very thick, dense foliage that we'll get up close and see. Now, I've already made an oops this week, is because we're not working in the office, and I've kind of been working out of my house. I forgot the macro lens, and I'm so disappointed, because the leaves of the Tecate cypress are definitely fantastic under the macro lens, but we'll do our best here to see what we can see with just hopefully my steady hand, how steady it will be, where we can see those branched leaves with, can anybody see the scales? So using my finger, you can see there that unlike pine needles, these are needle-like, yet they are scaled, very scaled leaves in that bright kind of green color. Really wonderful pattern to see up close with the macro lens. They've got that, you know, even though the leaves are so tiny, so narrow, they're so abundant that it gives that plant, it gives the plant the bushiness of its shape. And if I give these leaves that gentle rub, that pine kind of resin scent. Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad. Oh, you can see the scales, and it looks really cool. It is really cool, and it smells so good. Wonderful smell. Kind of gets you in that holiday spirit. We've just moved out of the holidays. That resin kind of pine smell, and it's got that stickiness to it as well. So, and then we look at the bark, and we can see the bark kind of gray to brown, reddish, and peeling. So the old bark peels away annually. Which we can see there, helping us to identify the species. If you're out and about, you've got scaled, out and about in the Tecate Mountains, got the scaled leaves and the reddish, gray to reddish bark that's peeling, and that scent, the Tecate Cypress. All right. And you can see, although it is an evergreen, perennial, some leaves do die off and turn brown. You will get a leaf litter below. All right. Now I mentioned that this is a plant that's drought tolerant. It can live a very long time, 50 to 150 years. However, it is dependent on fire for germination. So this is a plant this is a plant that's considered a gymnosperm. So these are plants that are gymnosperms, have their seeds exposed, and so the conifers belong to that group. And so what does that mean, conifers? That means that the Tecate Cypress has cones. It bears cones with seeds. And this one, and I must admit, I'm trying to get an image here. I don't know if this particular individual has ever bared any cones yet, but the species does bear cones. And let's see, I have a picture here. You can see there the cones are almost like the fruit, and in those cones with also scales, which I believe typically fruit in the fall. So This fall, I don't know if this individual had any cones, produced any cones. However, when they do, they look like this, very scale-like, and it takes a fire to open those cones and allow the seeds to drop. Okay, well, it allows the seeds to drop. So those plants that do this are called, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the word. So they're plants that require fire to open. Serotinous. Sorry about that. And so other cypresses, they have these cones, and they require that fire or heat. Sometimes extreme heat will allow those cones to open and seeds to drop. And then and only then will the new generation of Tecate Cypress begin. And so this is a plant that's dependent on fire ecology. Fire ecology, fires to go through an area, typically, historically, in every so often, and more moderate, not like the fires we experience today. And so the seedlings that germinate, that grow right after a fire goes through an area, they grow slow and they take time, but they can withstand the more moderate fires that tend to become more often. But since fire has been suppressed in our region, there's a lot more concern about the future of the Tecate Cypress. For example, in 2003, fire raged through Otay Mountain, and seeds that were released from that fire began to germinate, and then 4 years later, in 2007, another large fire sweeping through that area, those seedlings wouldn't survive. And so there's definitely an effort to preserve seeds after fire, because the fire patterns, historical fire patterns of this area that the Tecate Cypress has evolved with have changed in recent times with our bigger, hotter fires, a lot more fuel because of fire suppression. So there we go, the Tecate Cypress, the Hyperocypress forbesii in the Cupressaceae family, the cypress family. And you can see, they sell these at nurseries. You can get one of these at home. I looked, and a lot of times people are wondering about wildlife. Does any wildlife support this species, or does the species support any wildlife? Okay. And I found one. It's another, although the Tecate Cypress is rare, but the rare, it's called the thorns hair streak. Hair streak. Does anyone know what a hair streak is? What kind of animal is a hair streak? And I'll wait a minute for any of our entomologist friends out there who might know. This plant is the single host plant for the thorns hair streak. Host plant for the thorns hair streak. Not seeing any answers there. Maybe a delay. We may be frozen. Someone asking a moth. Close. It's a butterfly. A butterfly. A kind of nondescript, a grayish butterfly. Yep, there, Mark. Very good. Yep, hair streaks. There are several kinds, many kinds of hair streaks. And this is the thorns hair streak. It's rare. So when these go in the wild, from fire, the host plant, these are the host plant, then the thorns hair streak is also affected. And this is what their larvae feed on. So the hair streak lays its eggs on those scaled leaves of the cypress, Tecate Cypress, and the larvae will munch on those through their development. So there you go, the Tecate Cypress. And again, not something you would typically see here on the coast, but I thought it was worth presenting this plant today because of it's evergreen and it's green, and it's not many of us are maybe going to travel out to the Otay Mountains to see this. So you have a question. Good. Do any mammals browse these? I didn't find anything about mammals browsing. However, I did find, if you can imagine, that this plant with its kind of density would provide a lot of cover for species, for coyote or small mammals, to provide some cover, some shade on a hot day, or if there's a predator lurking, a great place to hide, get out of the elements. So, but yeah, that's. I really didn't find too much in regards to food, except for the hair streak larva. So good question. Any other questions? And I'm sorry, I'm a little rusty. It's been a month. It's in a new year. So oh good. Okay. How did it escape? No, it was planted right here. So I'll kind of, this is this nursery here, our nursery building, and kind of the area, and has that a large concrete or brick wall and chain link fence that's not overly attractive, and right next to the trail. And so this was planted again to provide some cover for the nursery, so it's not as so it's a little more sightly as opposed to unsightly. And you can see there's a large mule fat planted next to it. And if I flip this around, you can see we've got some. Oh, Mario, hi, nice to see you. There are some, I guess that's a grapevine that's planted along there. So it's done more for a demonstration as well as to provide some cover. But let's see, what was the other question? Oh, pollination. How is it pollinated? That's a great question. And I couldn't find anything. There really wasn't much about it, about pollination, except for that the male and female parts of the plant are on one plant. So you don't need a male and a female. One plant will pollinate itself. But that is a great question. Yeah, it's great to see you too, Mario. Happy New Year. So, anyway, so we're starting off the new year with Lunchtime Live. We're back on. If anyone has any suggestions, I kind of mentioned this a month ago. Yeah, I didn't get any suggestions emailed to me or written in the comments, but I've got a few that I've thought about. It's tough this time of year when we have everything's fairly dormant. I mean, you can see some of that evergreen behind us, but those are some of the plants we've already done earlier in the year. So I'm going to try to mix it up and add some species outside of the plant kingdom. to bring to the table, to the Lunchtime Live. So any suggestions that, something that would be appropriate for here, that would be, for that live here, you're curious about, I will consider everything. And I'm really happy to be back. So thank you. Hang in there. We're kind of in this mode till the end of January, where we're got the parking lot closed and the restrooms closed. So stay tuned with that. We'll see what develops. But I'll be here doing Lunchtime Live, and hopefully not forgetting my macro lens next time at home. So anyway, I appreciate everyone, your patience, and we're back. So happy 2021. And here's to another great season of Lunchtime Live. Okay. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next week.